Welcome, everyone. I'm Angelo Robles to the Angelo Robles podcast. I'm also the founder and CEO at Family Office Association. We have something very special for you today, and I'm really excited about it. It's a little different, but it will circle back and benefit anyone in business and finance. It's John Amaral on awareness and harnessing your energy force to enhance your extraordinary abilities. Well, it features John Amaral. And unlike some of my recent interviews, because this is a little different, I think I have to set the stage a little bit. So let me talk a little bit about John. John uses the unique principles of energy flow formula to help his clients heal injuries, reduce stress, anxiety, and depression, and reach and sustain new levels of energy, clarity, and fulfillment so they can feel and live better. Dr. John Amaral, DC, is an energy practitioner, author, and educator who works with A-list celebrities, entrepreneurs, billionaires, hedge fund managers, my backyard in Greenwich, Connecticut, athletes, influencers, and thought leaders. John has been a practitioner for Tony Robbins, who spoke at one of our events a couple of years ago since 2006, and he and his work have been featured, and I saw it in the recent GOOP Labs Netflix series with Gwyneth Paltrow. He also has appeared on numerous podcasts, including the #1 ranked biohacking podcast, Bulletproof Radio. Great podcast. I like Dave and them as well. And the Broken Brain podcast. John, welcome back. It's good to see you again.
Angelo, thanks for having me. It's great to see you.
My pleasure. So many of our viewers are successful. Their family enterprises in business and in finance. They're like, this is interesting, but how does this relate to me? Why don't we start with very simply, besides my description, tell our audience what you do.
Well, I guess in the most simplistic terms, I'm working with energy. I mean, the truth is everything is energy. Over 95% of the universe is energy. There's less than 5% of what we can experience, see, touch, even that's physical matter, and even at the subatomic level, even that matter is energy. So I'm working with sort of the currency of in a way the universe. So the body's made of energy. The body's got patterns of energy. As energy rises, our consciousness shifts. As energy drops, our consciousness changes. So we drop energy down, we go into these lower states. We have less cognitive capability. We have less access to our resourcefulness. As energy rises, we feel elevated, expanded, and we get access to different thought patterns. We get access to different information. So I really work in this realm of where energy, consciousness, and matter sort of come together, which is the human body. But the body is really a complete system. It's not just like this physical kind of dense structure. It's constantly changing, and it's dynamic, and it's shifting, and it's a very non-linear system. So little inputs into one area can change the whole system. And so my work is about helping the individual utilize their energy resources in the most resourceful and constructive ways, so that they can create progress in whatever area they're wanting to create progress in. They can be more creative, innovative, and make forward, really forward progress in life. And so the way I do it is kind of a combination of things I've developed over 25 plus years, which is kind of working with the physical structures of the body. When the body gets in fight or flight, it gets in a stress mode, you tense up, the central nervous system goes under tension, the blood oxygen levels drop, more energy is going into the muscle system for protection, and our creative capacity diminishes because we're in reaction. And so I help shift the body very rapidly out of that state and help people achieve really a flow state very, very rapidly. That state where athletes call the zone, where we know everything's synchronistically unfolding, happening easily. We're creative. We feel like we're making progress. Things are opening up. Everything's working. So I help people. I know the knobs and dials, in a way, in the energy system and the physical system, to help create that flow state very rapidly through physical work that I'm doing on the table, work that I'm doing around the body that's not physically touching the body, and helping people understand kind of how they've got themselves into these situations where they feel stuck or they feel like they can't make progress, or they feel like they have a disease process, or they have some breakdown happening. And I help them make that shift so they can get on their way and move forward again.
That's excellent. We'll dive into some of that, especially flow state, which most of our audience has some vague familiarity with, and talk a little bit about some of the science behind, like what you said, in terms of 95% of the universe is made up of energy. So, kind of what you're doing potentially could help them in their social life, their family, and obviously in business. If they're less stressed, if they're maximizing their capabilities and being more creative and entering a flow state, I mean, this is a competitive world. They could simply make better decisions, be more creative at the moment. I mean, just think about how many people are even limited socially by anxiety, by depression, and the opportunity of maximizing everything internally to be the best that you could be. I mean, what you do, and I've heard about it and seen it from many people I know and respect, has been pretty amazing. Uh, Many people are stressed. I used that word just a second ago. What do you do, or how can you teach them to, maybe the word is not eliminate stress, because maybe some stress is actually good, but how to manage it and actually how to thrive with it?
It's a great question. I mean, I think everybody listening here is successful, probably quite successful in their endeavors in what they're doing in business. And in order to, sort of achieve that level of success, there's certain um, um, amount of output that you need to make, and for a lot of people that they're stretched, they're on the computer for long hours, they're stressing about, what's happening in the markets, they're stressing about what's going on. It could be eustress. I mean, there's eustress, which is EU, stress. It's a good stress. I mean, we need a certain amount of stress to grow, just like if you work out, right? You got to stress the muscle system in order for it to grow. So stress isn't something that we need to avoid, but it's how we navigate it. Um, and so I think, we get, what I found in working with like the super high achievers, which is really the bulk of like my clientele, are really, really successful people in what they're doing. What I find over and over and over is that creative um, capacity. It's like when you are making the really amazing decisions, these kind of um, downloads that people get, or these knowings, or like, what you get, a feeling or a sense or an intuition to take action or not do something, that is really coming from a different place than the cognitive mind. And so in order to perform at the highest levels, we have to keep that channel open. We have to keep that part of us activated that just knows and receives information from something beyond, or that's transcending our kind of our cognitive mind, or that thinking part of the mind that we often think we are actually making decisions from, but truly the best decisions we make aren't really coming from that place. And so when people get stressed out, they typically drop into loops where they're focusing on what's not working, or they're trying to manage what they've created, which came from a place where you were opened up and expanded in this really like knowing state, and you drop down, your energy drops down. Now you're bound up, you're trying to like make it all work, and you're managing what you've created. And I find that the most successful people, typically that's what happens. They're stuck in a loop managing what they've created, and they've lost that edge of creativity and innovation that comes only when you're opened up, and when your whole system is in this expanded state. And so um, I would say, the more we're open, the more we're channeling things from a higher, and we can talk about what is that higher, part of us, but the more we're tapped into that, the more things flow and the more things work. And the more we trust that, the more really amazing decisions that we make. And so I think I know you have to maybe steer me back to the original question, but I think we're talking about stress. Um, when we go into that reactive state where we start to get stressed out about everything we have to, usually it's what we have to manage and deal with. And it could be relationship stuff. Maybe we're crushing it in the in our business, but in our personal relationship, there's like, friction and stress, or something's going on with one of our kids, or something's happening with a business partner, something that is sucking energy. Think of it like like on your iPhone, if you don't close down all the apps, they're still open in the background, sucking battery. They're still sucking energy. So we need to close down the apps. We need to be aware enough that we can um, make a shift in the things that are sucking our energy, and then we can move in the direction of things that elevate our energy. And so we can talk about what that is. But the stress isn't going to go away. Um, it's how we take that information in, and what our system does with it is the key, and how efficiently we use the energy within and around us makes all the difference in the kind of level of performance that we're going to operate at.
Now, there's no question that some professional guidance and therapy is going to be important for people that have certain issues and challenges, and even the changes we make in our life, which will be obvious to some, not just our mental state, but what we eat, especially if we have an allergic reaction to something we're not familiar with, and simply exercise and the value, the mental value. I'm not even talking about the physical benefits that it provides, but what you're talking about probably aligns very closely in those active in health and wellness. It's become trendy, but breathing or breathing exercises. Some people are familiar with Wim Hof and his cold exposure coupled with his breathing. Meditation, mindfulness, these are all going to be intertwined. Where does someone begin?
Well, I think one, just understanding that you can do all the right things. You can eat well, have a very healthy, organic, like high vegetables, plenty of hydration diet. You can get lots of sleep, which most people probably aren't. But even if you do get lots of sleep, you can exercise and get your heart rate up and have a good fitness program. You can do yoga. You can meditate. You can do all the right things. You can cut out alcohol. You can stop smoking. You can cut out the bad things. You can add in the good things. And even with all of that, which all those are going to help tremendously, the more you do in that direction, the more energy you're going to, natural energy flow you're going to have. But even if you're doing all those right things, you can still be suffering, and you can still be in misery, and you can still feel very ill internally. And the reason is physical health and what you can objectively measure, and your subjective mental and emotional health, which is an inner experience, are on two different sort of spectrums. They're intertwined, but good physical health where you don't have any diseases doesn't mean that you have great inner mental emotional health. So what where people can start is recognizing that the more right things that you're doing, the more things that we already know. We all know the healthy things to do. We all know we should get out and walk and move our body, or to exercise. We all know we should drink more water. We all know that we should eat healthy. We all know we should cut out reduce the alcohol. We know we should reduce, we know what to do. So that's like a no-brainer. So everyone move in those directions, right? But what people don't oftentimes realize or know, and this is where people can start to shift things, is that self-awareness of what you're feeling, sensing, experiencing internally, awareness of your body, its sensations and its feedback, not just symptoms, not just, oh, it hurts here, it's tense here, but what do I actually feel? What are the sensations that my body's giving me about what's happening that I may be overriding, overlooking, or ignoring altogether? We can start to bring our attention and our awareness to those things and start listening. So it would be like, I guess, if you're watching, um, the markets, or you're tracking things that are happening globally for looking at what's happening with the financial system, you're going to be attentive to these indicators, these certain things that are rising and falling. There are certain relationships that you're watching, and it's the same with the body. It's a system, so you have to watch and feel and sense what's happening. What do I get a feeling in my gut? Do I feel a tightness in my chest? Do I hear or smell or taste or see certain things when things are working or not working, like an interaction? These are intuitive ways to process energy, because we have five senses, and we are picking up all this energetic information in the environment, and we're translating it through those five senses. So people can start by starting to pay attention to shifts and changes in the subtle things that are happening in their awareness, that maybe they would have been overriding. Because in interviews with people that have been in situations, women that were attacked, for example, like, they got this, they go back through and they're interviewing them, and it's like there's always like this sense or knowing this person feels off, or that like, something about going down, taking a left here and going down those stairs doesn't feel right. And we pick up that information in different ways, but some part of us very much knows beyond our thinking mind. And that's the part that, the kind of like subtle awareness that if we start listening to and developing more, it changes how we operate in the world massively. And I know that everyone listening, again, is successful. So the best trades you made, or the best decisions you made, or the relationship that you got into, or you left, or whatever, some part of you just knew. It just knows. And that is what we have to learn how to tap into, not just like in this abstract way, but how does our body and our shifts in energy actually communicate to us, and can we listen to that and start to understand its language? There's a very specific kind of subtle language that each person operates in with a little bit different nuance, and we have to start to understand and see, because this is self-awareness. This is deepening our awareness of sensations and feedback that most people, unfortunately, ignore or override all the time. So we want to bring that kind of awareness into the forefront.
Yeah, I mean, the takeaways there, and it all kind of intertwines together, but the self-awareness part's very important, and taking the time to be aware of that, which I believe meditation, mindfulness, breathing practices are all things that could help from that. But let's talk, and I know it's going to be hard, especially for those only listening in, but even those viewing in, I'm going to recommend for my next upcoming question, like I said in the open, go to Netflix, go to the GOOP Labs with Gwyneth Paltrow, look through the episodes. I think it's 9 or 10, and you'll see one where John specifically is a guest. But try to describe to our audience what you do, because they may have heard me introduce you. Oh, Dr. DC, Dr. a chiropractic. So he's using adjustments or physically putting his hands on me, but it's a lot more complex than that, and actually in some ways a lot easier than that. Why don't you explain what that process feels like to people?
This is one of the great, I think, challenges of the work that I do. It's like describing what the experience of the best, Swiss chocolate exploding in your mouth is like when you've never, even tasted this, brown square substance, So, but there's, what I'm doing essentially is I'm approaching someone's body, and what I'm working with someone hands-on. I'm having them on a table, and you see me doing things about 3, 4, sometimes feet or more off of the body. What I've found over the years, and this is all measurable, it's backed by scientific research, is that the field of the body, so there's an electromagnetic field, and then there's informational fields that are around the body and within the body that you can measure. You can measure them 3, 4, 5 feet off the body with instrumentation that picks up the electromagnetic component of the field. But fields, as Einstein said, the field is the sole governing, property of the particle. So the particles, the matter of our body, is actually affected or influenced by the field that it's in. So electromagnetic and other types of fields influence and shape the way that the matter in the body moves. So I'm actually approaching the field around the body, and I'm inputting information, and I'm getting feedback, and I'm watching the physical body change, sometimes very dramatically. As if someone watches the Netflix special, you'll see someone's body moving on the table, someone emoting, the body's vibrating, shaking. It turns into a wave-like movement through the spine. And what's happening is, through meeting or mirroring the system and the sensory system in a very specific way or ways, the person who's getting the receiving the work gets this ability. It increases a self and body awareness instantly where you're either consciously or unconsciously, your system recognizes that I've been holding this pattern and it's no longer necessary, because it's taking all this energy to keep me all bound up because I'm in fight or flight. And if I were to release, that energy would have to go somewhere. So it's going to come out as movement, it's going to come out as sound, it's going to come out as emotion, it's going to come out as detox. It's going to be released once there's a recognition that, oh, I'm holding this. If you've ever been like, standing in the kitchen chopping something, or brushing your teeth or something, and you realize all of a sudden I'm holding all this tension while I'm doing this, and you didn't really realize it, and suddenly you became aware. In a way, that's what this is like. You're becoming dramatically aware that you were holding, and you feel where it is in your body, and your body spontaneously will just begin to release. And it's a very sophisticated approach. I'm going to very specific areas of the spine that links into how the central nervous system is put under tension when you're in a stress state. And this goes back to my chiropractic roots, but it also goes back to the work of many different people in the medical community. One neurosurgeon named Alf Bragg, who did a lot of research on traction or tensioning of the spinal cord when someone's under stress. And when you're under stress and your body's under physical tension, it changes the function of your nervous system massively. It changes the way your body and your mind function. So if we can introduce a force and bring awareness and attention into the field around the body, the field of energy around the body will shape or organize the structure of the body. It's pretty wild when you see it, because it just sounds very abstract. But I think we know through magnetism that if you hold a magnet over a pile of iron filings on a plate, you're going to see the iron filings go into a very specific shape as the magnetic field influences them. The body is operating on many different types of fields and forces. And when you go in with very specific introduction of force, the body will reshape itself. Literally in front of your eyes, it will change. The muscles start changing, the spine structure starts changing. And what happens is the consciousness shifts massively too, because there's a relationship between the structure and the experience. When our architecture is holding in this like fight or flight pattern, the shoulders are rolled forward, the head is jutting forward, the kind of chest and heart areas compressed, maybe the tailbone is tucked under. That's a stress pattern that's associated with feeling maybe defeated or victimized. You cannot feel empowered in that posture. There's research just that if people go into the Superman posture, and they put their hands on their hips and they raise their chest and they stand in that position and think positive thoughts, it actually has an influence on your consciousness. I'm not saying we're just going to think positive thoughts. Sometimes what needs to happen is we need to connect into a energy in the field around the body or within the body that's tied into maybe a sadness or grief that wasn't expressed, or maybe anger that wasn't expressed. And maybe for most people, emotions that are being strong, feelings that are being experienced that haven't been expressed as emotion will show up as physical tension in the body. And there's a certain vibration in the field around the body that's tied into those different emotional states, as well as certain tension patterns that are tied into those unexpressed emotions. So I think we're seeing more and more movement, I know in the world, just in where technology is going and all the innovations that are happening, where we're moving more and more into energetic approaches to addressing the physical. Like in Europe, some clinics are now starting to use vibration or frequency targeted at certain cancerous cells that's oscillating at the exact frequency that cancer cell emits, and which is different from the surrounding tissues. And you can explode the cancer cells with just vibration, just energy, and not harm the surrounding cells. So we're starting to see this transition or movement into frequencies, into vibration, into how energy and information actually are in relationship. And that's what I'm really working with when I'm working with the human body. I'm working around it with introducing different forces that shift the energy state.
So COVID makes it more challenging, but even pre or eventually post COVID, you're in LA. Uh, you're special, and the work you do, being hands on, is going to be most valuable and certainly recommended to people. But realistically, for those around the world, or maybe only see you a little bit here and a little bit there, uh, how could they implement the most basic of what you're talking about on their own? Or is there something you do with a 1 hour Zoom where you walk them through, you're only going to get 5% of it because I'm not there actually doing it, but it's going to be better than nothing? Is there anything they could do on their own?
Yeah, there are a lot of things that you can do on your own. I'm actually working right now on an ecosystem that's online, um, where there's just a lot of content for practices and approaches that they can do. There's actually on my current website, which is pretty easy, johnamaral.com. There is a free course. It's called the 7-Day Fight or Flight to Flow Challenge. People can just put their email in and they can get access to, I think it's like 10 days of access to a 7-day challenge, basically every day. And you can do it at your own pace because you get everything all at once. But you have different exercises, different processes that you go through using breath, using focused attention, using movement patterns, and you can start to activate and change and shift the energy flow. Um, but it always starts so I invite people to go check that out. That's a free course, and there's a couple things on the back into that go deeper if people want to go further. And then I'm creating now, like I said, it'll be available in a number of months here, but a lot more teaching of the different practices. Like I have a background in Qigong. So Qigong is the circulation of energy through what's called microcosmic orbit. These are ancient practices that have been around for thousands of years. If you want to just more energy in your body instantly, just put the tip of your tongue at the roof of your mouth, at the top of your mouth. You just kind of roll your tongue back and touch the tip of your mouth. Sit up straight in your chair. Breathe in through your nose and let your lower abdomen around your belly button area kind of poof out as you breathe in. It kind of expands out. Most people breathe in and they kind of they breathe into their upper chest. But if you touch the roof of the mouth with your tongue, you breathe in through the abdomen area, take a breath in through the nose, and imagine energy going up through just a channel of energy going up through the center of your spine, through the back of your spine, around the top of your head, and back down through where your tongue is touching the tip of your tongue is touching the top of your mouth. And imagine it going back down, 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 all the way down to your pelvis. And as you breathe out, you kind of you squeeze your pelvic floor slightly. You pull your belly button a little bit in, like you're pulling it away from your shirt or away from your pants. And you kind of squeeze that core as you breathe out. And then as you breathe in, you let the belly, abdomen area open up, and you imagine energy circling back up the spine, and it gets to the crown, and then you come back down through the front and circle around. And as you breathe out, you squeeze the abdomen, squeeze the belly button in a little bit. You do that, a few repetitions of that. It's an energy building or a chi building breath. And so somebody who just kind of does this like mouth breathing or mouth nose breathing all the time, it dissipates energy. If you want to build up energy and feel more energy in your body, that simple breath pattern with the visualization and the feeling of that energy circulating can switch the system on and give you tremendous amount of energy for the moment. So that's one simple practice or exercise that is just, breathe in through your nose, touch the tongue to the roof of the mouth, visualize a circuit of energy going up through the center channel of your spine and back around down. As you breathe in, let the belly poof out a little bit. As you breathe out, squeeze the abdomen in slightly and squeeze the pelvic floor and kind of squeeze your butt cheeks. And then let it go as you breathe in. That is a super simple breath anybody can do that builds energy. There's another breathing pattern that's really simple for just grounding yourself. So if you're feeling like everything is just kind of spiraling out of control, you're in the chaos, and you want to just like ground yourself and kind of bring yourself back to this moment, a slow breath in through the nose and out through the mouth is actually the grounding, connecting breath. So you breathe in, you might breathe into a count of like 4. You just hold it. You can hold it for a count of 4 and then breathe out through a count of 4. That's a simple one. Into the nose, out through the mouth. It calms you down if you're spiraling out and getting emotionally hijacked. It brings you back in. Um, so those are just two. I mean, there are many different permutations of breath. I go over many different ones in that 7-day challenge. But breath is just one element. So you have breath, then you have movement. Some people doing breathing exercises is not their optimal way to connect to their body or feel energized. Sometimes like people are being taught to do breath work and do intense breathing, and it actually kind of spirals them out. It doesn't connect them. It actually takes them more out of their sense of connection. So for those people, sometimes what they have to do is kind of let the breath go to the background. You still got to breathe. I mean, you're going to naturally breathe. That's part of like, it just organically happens, but you kind of put the breath into the background of your awareness, and you focus more on visualization. Some people, it's very visual how they feel energized, and they can kind of visualize the energy circulating or flowing through their body, or they can visualize the energy around their body. And some people need to visualize themselves outside of their body, actually. Because if you think about it, where is your consciousness? It's not actually in your body looking out at the world out there, because if you sliced open Angelo's brain and looked for Angelo inside there, you're not going to find him, because consciousness is a non-local phenomenon. It doesn't exist in a location. What you would find is synapses, and you would find biochemical processes, and you would see brain tissue, and you'd see the structure, and you would even see processes happening, but it still wouldn't be Angelo's consciousness. Consciousness in science is called the hard problem, because we still don't really know what even consciousness is. After all of these, thousands of years of being human, we don't know exactly what consciousness is. But um, there is uh, a critical awareness that needs to happen for us to feel healthy and well and connected, and that's we need to be recognizing that we have choice, that we have the freedom to shift patterns, that we can release things that aren't no longer serving us, that we can make progress in life by letting things go and moving on. And in order to do that, we have to actually have the awareness that we are not our past, and we are not and oftentimes the future that we're concerned about isn't even real. It's just in a concept in our mind. And every experience we have about the past, about the future, about even the present has an anchoring or an attachment somehow into our physiology. So the way we breathe, the way we move our bodies, the way we move and circulate our energy, what parts of our energy we're aware of, influences what's possible for us in life. And so increasing awareness of these things, like I said, for some people it's visual. They can visualize and feel and sense and see colors, and they can track the energy moving. For some people, that's so abstract. They're like, I don't see anything. This is woo-woo crap. I feel it when I move my body. So for some people, they only really feel their energy when they move their body. So they have to get out and walk, or they have to move, they have to work out, or they have to run or stretch, and then they activate and feel more energy. Some people, it's breath. And when they breathe and they calm the breath down, or they do that building up of energy through a nose breathing, for example, then they feel energized. But everyone's got a different style. So it's like, there isn't just one way. And so part of discovering how you operate energetically means having some kind of guidance, and having some kind of practices, and you can find your optimal, what I call your optimal flow sequence, which is, do I lead and initiate change and progress by breath first? Do I lead or initiate change and progress by focusing on the energy flow and feeling and sensing things? Or do I initiate progress by moving my body, just do it, Nike style, and I just jump into it? Which one of those is most effective? And as we play with it and explore, we can find that there's a certain sequence that is our optimal. So for me, I have to breathe. And when I breathe and I focus on my breath, and then I visualize or feel or sense the energy flowing, and then I move my body, that's my optimal sequence. So if I'm even working out, doing a physical workout, and I want to get in state, or I'm going into a meeting and I want to be in a more energized, empowered state, I have to focus on shifting my breathing, and then I focus on visualizing the energy expanding and flowing in my body, and then I go into action. If I'm working out, I'm going to breathe first. I'm going to visualize and feel and sense the energy moving, and I'm going to lift that weight. The last thing I'm going to do is the physicality. But for some people, that's not the case. They need to start with moving their body, which
Mhm.
gets them energized. Then they breathe, and then they feel energy moving. And other people, they just focus on feel, sense, energy. Then they take a breath, then their body moves. There's different combinations. So that's something that can be worked out. I go over that in the um, one of the programs that's tied into the 7-day challenge. So people can start to, explore that. But some of these things they take, maybe it's an hour long, process where I teach you how to do that, and then you go. And you can take this into everything that you're doing. You can take it into your work environment. You can take it into your personal environment. You can take it into your fitness environment, whatever. It's optimizing the operating system of the human body and energy field so that you perform at the highest levels with, it's almost like zero friction. It's um, a feeling of like it's like a superfluid state where there's no resistance of gravity is what it feels like. That's what the zone feels like. So there are ways to navigate into it.
Yeah, I mean, that reminds me, you mentioned it earlier. Don't ask me to pronounce the psychologist's name. It's like so hard, but the book
Csikszentmihalyi,
Flow,
Mihai Csikszentmihalyi.
pretty good. So, highly recommend to everyone the book Flow. Probably most of my audience is at least vaguely familiar with it. Just simply go and get it on Amazon if you're not, and read it and reread it. And other book, as you were talking, that popped up, it's I believe by a French gentleman, I believe also a psychologist back around 1915. So it's a little dated, but hey, that's some of the best work is the ancient stuff. Not that
Sure.
that's that ancient. And that simply is the book Magnetism. Uh, that's a little more complicated to find. I think I did get it on Kindle via Amazon, but really, really interesting book. A little bit above my head at the moment. I just got it a couple of weeks ago, but I found it very, very intriguing. Those may be two things that will help. Uh, in terms of negatives, we mentioned some, and maybe some that I didn't point out in the new digital era is Wi Fi and cell phone
Mm-hmm.
use. At minimum, I'm assuming completely shut down your router and Wi Fi when you go to bed. Don't look at a phone a minimum an hour before you go to bed, and don't even have it near you. Uh, that would probably be the most realistic. To say to get rid of that is unrealistic, or to Faraday paint your
Mm-hmm.
house. I mean, most people just aren't going to do that. But do you think that those could be negatives relative to what you're talking about?
Yeah, definitely. And I think this is one of the great experiments in the human physiology and biology right now is that we're exposing ourselves to new types of fields. I mean, you think about Madame Curie, she died of radiation poisoning.
Mhm.
Um, and she didn't know because we don't have the ability to sense. Our sensory system cannot pick up on certain information. Like we can't see infrared and we can't feel x-rays. So these things are outside of this very narrow spectrum of the visual spectrum of what humans can sense. And we also, radio waves, we can't feel them, right? But they're going through us. So there's right now the research points to, it's more of the thermal radiation from like holding a cell phone close to your head. Cell towers don't give you this thermal radiation, but there are other health effects that we don't really know we don't really know yet. I think we're going to see in the coming decades, and I hope it is not something like what happened with like thalidomide and different things that were given to given to pregnant women
Right.
back in the.
In the
So
40s.
there are big sort of oopses that we've made. Now we've rolled this out globally. Now 5G comes. We just don't know. I mean, so I think reducing that exposure and like you said, if you can turn off your Wi-Fi at night, you're probably still being exposed to 15 people around you, because it's all going through the wall and stuff. So I think now we're at a point where we are not going to steer that ship in a different direction, probably like in the next little bit of time. If it comes out that the whole human population goes sterile or something, right, we're going to be in trouble, and then we're gonna have to shift
Yes.
really quickly. But I think that there's so many unknowns here. So I would say for me, I'm I have Wi-Fi all throughout my house. I have devices that I'm on. I'm exposed to all this stuff. So I think we have to do the things like blue-green algae and using, like greens and that really does help with free radicals, things that reduce the free radical. I mean, blueberries, I mean, like superfoods that are rich in antioxidants, things like that. We want to do as much as we can to reduce the effects of, these, um, the potential effects of some of the radiation and stuff that we're exposed to. But, UV radiation from the sun also creates free radicals in the body and can create cancer, et cetera, et cetera. So I think for me, um, I think what you said, like staying off just the being on the phone close to, like, right before you go to bed has more to do probably with the blue light exposure.
Yeah, sleep.
And if you have your phone now, Apple products and stuff have a night shift that can go on, which helps, because the blue light exposure, like being on your phone without that night shift on at night, what it does is it reduces the production of melatonin, which means you don't get as good of a rest, but you also don't get melatonin is a big free radical um, reducer, and has a lot of other benefits as well. So we want to make sure that we stay off those devices if possible, in the period around going to sleep at night, and also turn off your most of your lights and use a more dim or not LED lights at night. That's you can find out a lot about like blue light and its effects on your physiology by just searching. Like even Dave Asprey's got some good stuff there on that. There are
I mean,
classes that you can get.
I want to be respectful of your time, but are you familiar with like Juve, the red light therapy? Does that have any
Yes.
impact on the things that you're talking about?
Yeah, there are so many devices and innovations now. I mean, the red light therapy, I love. There's so many benefits. It creates it really creates um, a increase in blood flow to the tissues and oxygenation. So there's plenty of benefits. I have the LED red lights. There are red light beds, and there are like little ones that you can get. You can just hold in front of you. There are devices like PEMF, which is pulsed electromagnetic frequency, which you can, in this case, it's a good frequency you can put through your body for healing. It has many healing properties, especially post-surgery, post-surgical. It's great because it brings a lot more blood flow and oxygen deep into the tissues. There are many devices now that are starting to emit different frequencies. There are diagnostics that are being used that are emitting frequencies. I mean, we are just at the very beginning. We're like in the early stages of the revolution of innovation around energy and products and devices that can scale to help people. And I think this is where I think we're going to see massive changes in the way the whole medical field is operating. I mean, look, we're using MRI to diagnose right now, which is really causing a jump in the literally atoms in your body. They're like going through this shift, and we're measuring the shift, and that's how we're getting information about what is happening in the body. So we're measuring changes in frequency or changes in the energetic system to get visual information. So we're using it as diagnostic. Why can't we use it for treatment? And so, like I said earlier, with cancer, that's already being utilized. We're going to see a lot more of that. My particular, approach does not use any, tools. It uses the tool of your consciousness, your own movements, your own breath, your own focused attention, and your ability to shift energy. And this goes, I think, because it's our subjective, our consciousness, we have to cultivate that awareness, and we have to cultivate our ability to work with our own body from within, because even if we apply all these devices from the outside, it doesn't necessarily shift the way we experience our body from an awareness perspective. So we have to build awareness. We have to learn to cultivate our energy flow, and then we can use all these devices and innovations to accelerate and enhance that.
And John, although you already mentioned some resources with your website, but for those that would like to learn more, what's the best way they could do that?
So people can go to johnamaral.com, like you said. And also on there, there's some various podcasts that I've done that you can listen to. You can do a search if you want. You can Google me, and you're going to find some interesting stuff. I did a session with a celebrity friend of mine in Davos at the World Economic Forum last beginning of whatever it was, the one right before COVID. So it was
Yeah,
last
in
year.
2020.
And she had quite an experience on the table, and it went viral, and there was a lot of like John Amaral doing exorcisms in Davos, so I'm not doing exorcism. Someone just had a big emotional release. And so you can Google me, but also you can watch the Netflix. I think the best way to get an experience of to really understand, you won't understand probably by watching. You'll be like, what in the F is going on? But you'll see a visual of what it looks like when I'm working with people and me talking about it. And that's on the GOOP Labs show on Netflix. I think it's the 5th episode of 6. So that you can find me that way. And you can, if you want to reach out directly to me, you can I'm just easy, john@johnamaral.com. You can get me that way.
Great. And Amaral is Amaral. For those of you that had any question, well, John, it's great to see you again, a little bit in my clothes. Everyone, I'm Angelo Robles, the host of the Angelo Robles podcast and founder and CEO at Family Office Association. It was really great to have John on. And yes, I know lately a lot of what we've been focused on is investing, economists, macro thinkers, and that's all great and good. And this does tie into them and yourself in terms of thinking through problems, making better decisions. And this is all a part of it. You may look at it as being a little bit ancillary or out of left field, but when you really think about it and you really dedicate yourself to being the best that you could be, it's really not. It does all tie in together. You can learn more about us on our website, familyofficeassociation.com. It's very easy to join. We're a global community of investors, successful entrepreneurs and families and executives that work in their family offices and family foundations. We're very active on social media, Instagram, LinkedIn. You'll find me. The one that we probably promote the most lately and go and subscribe is our YouTube platform. We're very simply on Family Office. And again, you'll find it, but Family Office, it's there. We got a lot of great stuff on there. Go and subscribe. And of course, I don't mention it as much lately for some reason. I'm not sure why, but my podcast on Apple and Spotify as well. And very simply the same name that I give this, the Angelo Robles podcast. On that note, John, thank you so much for joining us, our live participants as well. Look forward to the next time. I learned so much. Thank you.